rough. Your baseball flat earthers post was hilarious watching baseball. Yeah. Dude, a ton of people. I don't even call myself a flat earther. I point out the globe why. I'm a realm earther. Because I can't make a statement of what it is. Because they won't, I've never been to Antarctica. I can't prove it. But I can show you what it is not. Yeah, baseball players are textbook flat earthers though. Because it's like, because they deal with spinning balls all the time and like factors for hitting home runs. You don't think they've tried to calculate Coriolis effect for hitting home runs? They're like, okay, so if the stadium is facing north or west or east, it should... Like, dude, you can hit more home runs in Mile High Stadium because of the elevation, but not a 1,000-mile-an-hour spin of an earth. Like, they don't... Like, it's preposterous. Now everybody's saying what kind of realm it is. Atom and molecules are round, so I believe that's correlated. I don't think atoms are round. I think atoms are waves. An electron is a field. There is no particle called the electron. Oh, how dare you? I don't want to get into it. You can't isolate it. It isn't what it's been depicted. It isn't a circle with things rotating it. An electron field is the statistical probability that the particle will be in a given place. They've never observed the particle. They can't measure it outside of the fact it's in a field. It's a wave. It's not a, matter isn't real. Does that make sense? All right, whatever. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Yeah, Venus Earth, exactly. What physics can you point to? I don't know what you're talking about, Lons. Is English... Bike thieves can't pronounce Trump, so it's Trump. Yeah. The Tesla guy was on something. Yeah. The Bible says the world has corners. So everything in the Bible, people freak out about the Trinity when the only Trinity is like, well, the Father in heaven, they're like, oh, look, 3. I counted 3. Guys, read Genesis and tell me how the fuck the heliocentric model could work with that. Or evolution. On this day, God made... So why wouldn't God make the sun first? It's so much bigger, and it's the center of the solar system. And then God made single cells and sat for 4 billion years while chaos reigned, and they just fucked and lightning bolted themselves into man. It's nuts. That's why I'm so fearless with this shit. I'll apologize if I let my emotions get too crazy and I'm like yelling at people too much. But I'm not wrong with this stuff. It's like, why God made the heaven and earth. Okay, what is the sun? The sun to rule the day, the moon to rule the night. They're luminaries. They're lights. Why? So when the devil brought up, okay, where's up? Where's the heavens above? Well, it's relative to what? To man. So you think it's not relative to God, it's relative to man. So if you're in Australia, God is above. So does God move? Does God move down there? So if you're like right now, heaven's above, right? Above, that's above, right? That God, heaven's above, right? Okay, so Tom Barnett in Australia right now, it would be heavens below. No, Big Bear, but it's relative. How would that be relative? Was God in... So God isn't up there. God's down there. So God's a circle. God's like air. Is it liquid? Okay, so is above relative to where the man is standing? So now it's a homocentric universe. It's not about God. It's about, Australians are looking at Satan. Guys, so when the devil brings up Jesus to show him the nations, to tempt him, how do you see all the nations on a ball? Do you see through the, but the Trinity, I'm like, dude, none of it works with heliocentrism, with evolution, with any of it. And so when people are like, the Trinity, you must, I'm like, how? God is everywhere. Okay. So heaven's above. God is just everywhere, and we're in infinite black, and we come from chaos. That's Christianity. We come from chaos, random mutations that are selected by environmental chaos and sexual selection based on who can get more cum out of their dick. Yeah? You think that matches Christianity, but the fact I don't understand 3 become 1, 1 become 3? So I'm the outcast. I'm looking at the logical cohesion of the Bible. Guys, first book, chapter 1. Like, you can't, people in Australia can't pray, but there's no up. There's no above or below. It's relative. The theory of relativity came out because Albert the Grabber Einstein had to put out a spell. Hang on. The Great Reset Jubilee. Anyone else interested in this? No. They're not going to forgive your debts unless you give up something big. Out of all the spells, evolution is the one people are most offended. Yeah, because their God is chaos. Okay, so if God made man, which is book 1, chapter 1, how can man come from evolution? That also implies that we're still evolving. So man will just drift into something else. So at what point? So tomorrow, the next day, like my kids' kids, when are we something else than when the fact that Christians think they can be Christian and believe in their God of chaos on a spinning ball in infinite black after billions of years of just jizz ooze like chaotically for it. It's the opposite of Christianity. It's the opposite. It's not even like for me, the Trinity, I don't understand. That's a theological argument. To believe that God did not make man. What made man was chaos. Guys, chaos is associated with Satan. You know that, right? The lack of order. Those people are idiots. Dude, it's most Christians. Vast majority. 70% of Jews believe that being a Jew is defined by being a victim, by the Holocaust. 70% in America, and they're atheists. They don't believe in God. They're scientists. Okay, I would say at least 70% of Christians, no, I'd say 50% believe in evolution, and probably 80% believe that the earth is a spinning ball. When that directly contradicts the entire Bible. It's fine. I mean, listen, it's not, but just don't come at me about the Trinity. How's that sound? Yes, God is not a God of confusion. No, God is very simple. 4 corners. Heavens above. The firmament. The devil brings up Jesus to look at all the nations of the world. How do you look at all the nations of the world on a ball? Why would, when God, in the 7 days of creation, why, but a day is really a million billion years. The beauty of it is it doesn't require time. Your argument of a day could be a billion years, that doesn't matter. The engine of creation is not chaos. It's not random mutations up against environmental factors. It doesn't matter if it's 4 billion years or a day. It does not matter if you're under the assumption of I just can't understand God. God works in amazing ways. Nope. That means you reject the Bible. God created man. God didn't create jizz in an ocean and wait 4 billion years to have lightning strike it. And no one's ever observed evolution. You can't recreate it. It makes no sense. How do you evolve an eyeball using sexual selection? How do you select for an eyeball? What, a million years where you just have like a ball that doesn't see it? It just slowly becomes something that's designed. Our world is so structured. The same mathematical patterns exist everywhere in nature. It's fractal. The veins on a leaf look just like the dendritic drainage systems of rivers. Your lungs, your lungs look just like tree branches, which just like rivers, which look like, the nerves in your head. The tree of life looks just like your umbilical cord. It's all fractal. That's not chaos. That's God. God's handiwork. So the same thing with the spinning ball. There is zero evidence in the world that there is a spinning ball outside of pictures from NASA. The only thing you will receive when you talk to people about the spinning ball is shame. They'll say, "Oh, the public school system failed." Classic spell. When "Oh, did you know that 20% of Americans believe the earth is flat?" "Oh, our public school system failed." It did. Because some of us got out without being fucking brainwashed. It did fail. Its mission. Because its mission was never to give us the truth. The public school system did fail because some of us do know that the earth is a flat plane. But observable reality, guys. Observable reality. Every experiment you can do, starting with Michelson, all the way back to Michelson-Morley, when they had to roll. Guys, Nikola Tesla was a flat earther. Nikola Tesla did not subscribe to the globe earth model. Even Albert Einstein said that was it Copernicus? I don't know. It's 100% of that. Yeah. Guys, I like to keep it very simple. How does a lighthouse work? How can you have a light beam that's only 30 feet in the air, 40 feet in the air, travel out 40 miles when the curve is 8 inches per mile squared? It would be 1,000 fucking feet under the horizon. When you see a ship disappear and it looks like it's going under the curve, you can zoom in and it's still there. It's still there. When the sun is setting, it's just going that direction. I mean, guys, it's fascinating when you look into it. How can a plane going east to west or west to east have no factor whatsoever with the spin of the earth when it allegedly is going 1,000 miles an hour? If we are in an ellipse going around the sun, how can we never feel the shift in speed? Ellipse. Guys, I'm really good at physics. This is a fucking problem. This is why I'm a bit of a thorn in people's sides. Because one revolution around the sun is 1 year. And why is this so important? Because you can't keep adding years. That's what Satan always does. So, okay, well, we can't observe evolution, so it must be 100 years. 1,000,000 years? 1,000,000,000. 20 billion years. That's how we can explain it. It's just so slow. 1 year around the sun. Okay? It's an ellipse. What does an ellipse tell you? It has to change speed. Even the retards who believe in the circle, you'd still have centrifugal and centripetal force. You can't get around that. It's like being on a fucking one of those teacup rides. Oh, but it goes so slow, Big Bear, you don't hear it. Stop. You cannot observe it. You cannot record it. You cannot test it. We're talking about thousands of miles an hour. If you're going in 1 year and you're on an ellipse, which it's allegedly an ellipse, there would be a change in speed. Where's that change in speed? Where's any evidence that it's turning? So you can go up in a plane from east to west or west to east, north to south. Okay, and then you get into the historical gravy. How many people do you think have ever went around the earth, around the equator? 1 million? Millions. I've been on planes that have been, to Europe and back and all over. People are constantly going around the earth like this. How many explorers, class, have ever went around the poles? The answer? None. Wouldn't some Yahoo, some rich guy, somebody at one point in history want to go up and over and around and back up again? Well, it's none. Okay, how the engineering plans for long bridges, how do they factor in the curve? Class, they don't. Okay, all the dials and knobs and all this stuff on an airplane, how do they factor in the curve? They don't. It's all calculated on a flat, non-moving plane. It says it right on the fucking, right in the handbooks. Guys, when you first realize this shit, it's mind-blowing. But then you're like, well, and then people are like, oh, Uther. Guys, it's pathetic at this point. No one can answer one question. Not one. They think that the moon is spinning at exactly the same speed as the earth. You can look in the sky and see the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time. And there's a shadow on the moon that's facing the sun, like with your eyes. And they're like, you sir. You can look at like the tides will go in and out. So they cannot explain it with the moon. None of it. It's all bullshit. Why is the one treaty that all the nations in the world could sign for the last 60 years, even in world wars, giant wars, the Antarctic Treaty, what's that? That none of us are allowed to go to Antarctica or travel over it. Why? Allegedly, because of the penguins. We don't want to disrupt their environment. We just make a mess of the place. Guys, the earth is flat. It's not moving. I mean, I'm not going to claim, I can't claim what it is. I can claim what it is not. Everything observable. And guys, Nikola Tesla agrees with me. It's a dude, there is no sniper on the planet that will tell you they factor in the spin of the earth. Rather, they're shooting somebody. Let's say you're shooting someone 2-3 miles away. You'll factor in the everything, like the slightest wind, that the gravity of the bullet, like the bullet will fall at the same speed as if you drop it. Like it still falls and everything. Humidity, everything. Not spin. Nobody's ever like, well, it's spinning west to east, so we have to. There's no spin, guys. If it was spinning 1,000 miles an hour, the minute you let go of that, but the air is moving at the same time. Nope. Fluid friction. Look it up. Spin a tennis ball in the water. Does the water go with the dude? It's nonsense. How can you have a pressurized atmosphere next to a vacuum, next to a perfect vacuum, a vacuum so vacuous that a human being's entire insides would just go boom? We'd explode if we went into it. You can't. You can't put a human being in any NASA outfit into a vacuum in any chamber on the planet. They would die within a microsecond. Like a vacuum destroys, like it would crush. Forget about space travel, that meth head street fort that they claim landed on the moon. Where's the heating and cooling devices? It would take about, 1,000 pounds of a heater or cooler. It's endless bullshit. I'm not mad about it. It's just, you could put 6-foot galvanized thick steel into a vacuum and it'd crush it. Or it'd be dude, a vacuum. And the NASA spacesuits were sewn by hand by like black women. They've done like whole documentaries on it. Dude, it's really peaceful when you understand it. Not a vacuum was above. I know I'm disproving the mainstream. That looks a lot like water to me. And if you read the Bible, it said water's above. Water's above. Heaven above. God looks down at us from heaven. Like, why don't people want to believe the book they claim they believe? And then they just furiously scream at me because I don't see what the Trinity means. But yet they can believe they're spinning on a ball like a goddamn teacup ride at a circus in an infinite black, that it's expanding forever and will slowly die out. Oh, and we come from a big bang where something exploded from something very small. Okay? How do you know that? Because a retard in a wheelchair told you in a robot voice. And then you were graded on it when you were a kid because your parents abandoned you because they had to work so that they could smoke doobies and get blowjobs. And nothing in physics at all or anything observable shows a curve anywhere. And yet, like, when I look at a spinning ball now, I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Like, I don't even want them around my kids. It's such a sick little lie. Just a sick, twisted. And then the people, like, when they look at you, they're just like, what? Looks like public school failed. I'm like, yeah, they did fail on me. They didn't get me. Could it be the rain comes from the waters above? I think the science behind how rain works is pretty accurate, like the adiabatic cooling effect and how rain shadows work and condensation and warm and cold fronts. That checks out. But no, I think there's a firmament. I think it's right out of the Bible, guys. I think there's a hard, fast barrier that is up there. It could be liquid, plasma. I don't know what the fuck it is. But there's clearly, you can't have a vacuum next to a pressurized system. Oh, but gravity, there's no proof of gravity. Like, so many people get so mad when you say that because it's so taboo. It's so, like, shocking. You know, you can look at Bruce Jenner cuts his dick off and shoots himself full of chemicals and goes, I'm a pretty woman. And everyone's like, so brave, so brave. That doesn't shock people. But saying gravity has never been proven, that shocks people. You're like, shocked. I'm like, show me gravity. To explain gravity. They're like, well, mass bends space-time, and so then I'm like, you don't know. I've spent years trying to figure this shit out. And it's not because I'm dumb and they're smart. It's because it's intentionally confusing. The devil is the father of confusion, of lies. If something's really confusing, guys, the most technical crazy shit, if it's explained properly and you start from the basics, it's not confusing. Like literally an engine isn't confusing. You just have to take the time to look into it. Gravity is not real. I mean, no one's been able to explain it to me. It's like a bowling ball and a trampoline. You see the bending of, I'm like, what? So the existence of matter bends space-time to create gravity. Okay, I got it. So show me that in an experiment. Oh, I can't. So how do you know that? My mind. What? Oh, yeah, I mean, the space-time, we can do experiments. I interviewed the guy who got the Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel Prize for physics for a black hole gravitation. He's wearing a Hawaiian shirt. He has a speech impediment. He's a cool guy, Kip Thorne. I talked to him for like 2 hours. Dude, he has they're not impressive people. These high-level physicists, they fucking believe in like evolution. It's just like, dude, Satan is the father of lies, of confusion. If you don't understand it, there's something going on with it. I'm serious. Like these type of concepts where it's like simple. Like simple. Like I remember one time when I was touring with the show Sullivan and Son, and my friend on the show, we're at a baseball game, and we were like in the front row, like getting all good treatment and everything. And my buddy goes to a stranger. He goes, "Hey man, will you take my picture?" And the guy goes, "Of just you?" And my friend Ahmed was like, yeah. And he goes, "Okay." And I've never gotten that out of my mind, because the other guy saw our horrible lifestyle and existence so clearly. He didn't even know it was possible that someone with their friends would just want a picture of just themselves for their Instagram page. And it broke a veil over my eyes in that one moment. Yeah, this guy just goes, "Of just you?" And my friend Ahmed's like, yeah. And he's like, "Okay, man." Like in his mind, he's like, "Why?" And I was like, such a good point. Why? Like, why would you want a picture of just yourself when you're with your friends at a baseball game? For status? Like, that's so dumb. You know, and that shit's all around. Like, little kids see through lives like crazy, you know? They're just like, they just see it. You know, if a child can't understand it, it's bullshit. Oh, well, the Bernoulli's principle, a child would be like, why don't you use a balloon? Great question, NASA. Why shouldn't we just use a balloon? Well, the rocket scientist and the Bernoulli's principle and the adiabatic. Why don't we just use a balloon? My 4-year-old just asked that. Oh, wait, NASA does just use balloons. They're the #1 consumer of helium in the world. Those fucking spaceships you see are literally balloons. Satellites are balloons. They're called satelloons. They just put all the satellite shit on a balloon, and they have control over it. It can go anywhere they want. It can go like a grid. Oh no, the space junk, and it goes thousands of miles an hour, and and they never break down or crash to the earth, and it's just, you time it perfectly, and they never run into each other. No, they're balloons. One of the first hoaxes in history was the Hindenburg, because they wanted to get rid of air travel, balloon travel from the mass population. That's why we will start airships again. All right, I'm going to do another stream. This is winding down. If you like my gravy, P.O. Box 490, Sandpoint, Idaho 83864. Some gravel for my babble. Tip the piano man. TheGreatBearTrail.com, BeartariaTimes.com, UnbearableSmerchandise.com, Unauthorized.tv. I'll see you guys in a second. I'm going to do a little more.